Everybody. This is Akil Bey, Wazir Al'rais, or the Prime Minister of Maru State Republic. Just decided to make a quick video in regard, well, it might not be quick, but a video in regards to what's known as the triple principles, what many of us call the triple principles in the Act of Algeciras, which is Moorish law. And I actually going to be touching down on a few topics, but this will be the one of the main topics that I'll be focusing on. Let's see, okay. This will be one of the main topics I'll be focusing on. I gotta change that too. So the triple principles is important. And the reason I want to talk about this is because it relates to what Noble Drali brought, which I'll touch furthermore on later on in the video. It also touches down on what you'll find many Moors wanting to do, in which it all makes perfect sense as to why. But let's first start off with what's on the screen. So it says, this is a old newspaper article on that spoke on the Act of Algeciras. And so the boxed in information and the underlined information is what I was using at one point, but the boxed in information says the sovereignty and independence of His Majesty the Sultan, the integrity of his domain, and economic liberty without any inequality. Okay. So this is what the Act of Algeciras basically has set up. And if you know anything about the Act of Algeciras, this was a document or a law, Moorish law, in which is seen as a treaty in international law. You know, it's called the Act of Algeciras. It's seen as a treaty in international law. And so this Act of Algeciras was set up to establish these three principles. And there's other specific things that is set up in regards to these three principles, like a state bank. It talked about the control of the police in the Act of Algeciras. It talked about taxes in the Act of Algeciras, and a few more other things. But this is basically Moorish law, treaties being supreme law of the land, right? You know, Noble Drali didn't start Moors, he didn't create Moors, but he did redeem a lot of information. So we have to follow the instructions that were set out before him. Moorish treaties, Moorish law, supreme law of the land. A lot of people say follow the Prophet's law. Well, what was the law for the Moroccans before the Prophet came? These are the laws that, excuse me if you're my child in the background. These are the laws that we must follow. I know a lot of Moors in the temple say a lot of times, are you following the Prophet's laws? In which that we must put things in chronological order when it pertains to Moors, both historically and politically. So the treaties have instructions in which that these were set forth that Moors must follow even to this day. So what is one of the treaties such as the Act of Algeciras all about? One being sovereignty and independence. Sovereignty and independence is simply a declaration of independence. You state your independence properly, politically, the correct way. That's why we learn government, to establish a government. Declaring your independence is the first thing you do coming into statehood, such as the United States declaring their independence, every other state declaring their independence before they actually came up with their constitution. Look at the chronological order of United States history, in which the Declaration of Independence is powerful in itself, in which I won't go into right now. But sovereignty and independence is the first thing that's established. What's the sovereign? The person, but not you. The state is seen as a person in international law. It's also seen as a government, a state government that can take other states to court and govern your entire state, i.e. your country. So state means a lot. It's kind of like more. More means a lot. Don't get confused. A lot of people get it confused saying more means dark skin. Okay, that's the general term, right? Matter of fact, let's go to this picture. More is a general term. More means dark skin. More means a lot. More also relates to the spirit. It means a lot. More also means land. It denotes land. But when we're talking, there's a difference between talking historically, talking in a general sense, and then talking international law. Because a lot of people say, hey, this is Northwest of Mexico. That's not what international law says. Now, on the private side, what Wazir Al'rais set up, these privatized work terms, such as Moorish American, such as Northwest of Mexico. Treaties don't say these. So it's a difference between privatized terms and international law. Or you want to look at it as general terms, a general understanding of international law, even though a general understanding is encompassed in international law. So if more means dark skin, and also more means Moroccan, does that make everybody in the world a Moroccan? No. Because then they wouldn't be a Frenchman like they are, or a German like they are, or Italian like they are, or whatever they are. There's only one place, one jurisdiction called Morocco. That jurisdiction encompasses this landmass that we think is American, and for now, encompasses what we call the Kingdom of Morocco. Now, the Moroccan Empire has changed throughout time several times, the jurisdiction of it. International law has changed several times. Now it's being governed. It used to be by religion. Now it's statehood, balance of powers. There is no one-man show like the Sultan coming out of nowhere running things. It's a balance of powers. There is no more religious head. Based on your religious power, that depends on how you move things. That understanding relates to a middle, what I call a mid-heaven understanding. It relates to what Wazir Al'rais brought. It relates to what the Vatican stole, well, I wouldn't say stole, what the Vatican, I would just say repeated or did after Wazir Al'rais came on the scene, which was their whole way of using religion to do X, Y, Z. But you see, religion is not modern day true international law. So on the screen, it says, basically denotes, it says that Moor historically referred to various Muslim populations and cultures in North Africa. Fast forward, it says, however, it is not a recognized nationality in the modern sense. Nationality typically refers to a legal citizenship or membership in a specific country or state. So to be a Moorish national, to be a national means to pledge allegiance to a state. So to be a Moorish national or citizen or even the subject or whatever. More specifically, Moorish national. What state government is confirming this? What are you a citizen of? What act of government is confirming? Right. So it says Moor, right, is not a nationality. It's a general term, but it's also in our treaty, right? So let's continue this next picture right quick. It says, is Moroccan a nationality? Yes. Wait, ain't Moor and Moroccan the same thing? Okay, well, Moor in a modern sense doesn't mean nationality. That's what the last picture just said, right? Remember, this is Chat GPT. And we can cross-reference. Some people don't like asking questions to Chat GPT, like you can't cross-reference common sense. The Moorish states been saying you cannot be Moorish American before any of us was using Chat GPT. So that's definitely not an excuse. You can go back and look at the treaty. You don't need Chat GPT to make common sense out of that. Either you're Moroccan or you're American. So AI further confirming this, put it in more simpler terms, saying that yes, Moroccan is a nationality, refers to individuals who are citizens or nationals of the Kingdom of Morocco. But we know this is the Moroccan Empire. So we know that Chat GPT either doesn't know exactly what it's talking about or holding out information. Okay, but guess what? You can cross-reference with common sense. Even the United Nations is using AI. Cross-reference with common sense. It's a tool. It's not out to get you unless you think it is, unless you're using it for that purpose. It says a country located, okay, this says Moroccan nationality is acquired through birth, descent, or naturalization. According to the laws and regulations of Morocco, individuals who hold Moroccan nationality are entitled to the rights and privileges afforded to Moroccan citizens, including the right to live, work, and participate in the political and social life of the country. So Moroccan is a nationality because that's what the treaty said. That's what the Moroccan treaty said. They also say Moor. But guess what? It's up to the Moorish states to make all laws specific. You are not a Moor unless you are a Moroccan. Other than that, you are what you are, Mr. American, Mr. French, Mr. Italian, Mr. German, Mr. whatever, Hungarian, Slovenian, whatever, dark skin, Slovenian, you're Slovenian, or whatever you are. Whatever government is representing you and confers your nationality, that's what you are. So when Noble Jali said, why are you Moorish American? Okay. Even though Moorish America is not in any treaties, right? It's just cross-reference common sense. Logic. Where would you find these words if you could stone your eyeballs? Not in international law, right? You will find them. He said, you are Moroccan. You are Moroccan. That's what you are. You are Moroccan. Born, which means naturalized in law. So you are naturalized in America. What is America? United States, 13 colonies. 13 colonists. Change the spell in your head. The Moorish colonies, the Moorish 13 colonies. That's what you are. Look. Oh yeah, Islam.
I don't want to interrupt. So, all right, can you like point out the actual definition of Moroccan state, so we won't like confuse that with what we were talking about earlier, as far as like the definition of a state and like technically our body being the state or our mind being the state, and our body being like technically our body is the de jure side and our mind will be the de jure and our body will be the de facto side, but technically it's like by definition, they kind of run together. So can you put that, like, can you separate
Mhm.
those two from me?
Yeah. What I'll do is go to my Instagram, and which I'll look up Maru State Republic, because that's where you'll find a lot of this information from a specific book. Posted. Let's see. And the book I'm looking for is called Principles of Political Science. Uh, okay. Okay, so it says, and this is some pictures from the book called Principles of Political Science. It breaks down exactly what it says, the political science or the metaphysics of law. So it says, for the existence of a state, government is necessary. Government is the organization of the state, the machinery through which the state will, the state will is expressed. A people settled on a definite territory cannot constitute a state until some political organization has been formed. The organization may vary in kind and complexity. Government is the organization which shows that the central relation of command and obedience has been established. Uh, Government exists where that is confirmed, whether it is whether it is in a vast organization like that of the United States, or that of the tribal government of the uh, Australian or Aborigines. It goes to say the government is the organization of the state, the organ of unity, the organ whereby the common purposes which underlies the unity are definitely translated into practical reality. So it's the organization of the state. It's we all want to say unity, but practical unity is expressed through government. Every other way is just a kumbaya. Uh, I'm wishing on a star method. Uh, I'm trying to find a different picture. Okay, here it is. And I'll go back to the other picture here in a second. It says the state is permanent throughout, as permanent as the human mind, the unity of which it is a fundamental expression. So the state is permanent as long as the human minds exist. So the state is abstract. But it also said the state is government, because if we look in Montevideo, Rights and Duties of the State, the Montevideo Convention, Rights and Duties of the State, Article 1, it says a state is a government. So this book is saying a state is permanent throughout, as permanent as the human mind, the unity of which is the fundamental expression. So the fundamental expression of the state is the human mind. So it's abstract, it's mental, right? My state of mind is Islam. My state of mind is Allah. My state of mind is Muslim. That's what a lot of Moors say. They talk about their human mind expression of fundamental aspect. But due to misinformation, due to COINTELPRO, XYZ, due to us not reading and studying ourselves enough, which it always comes back to us. It always comes back to you at the end of the day. Uh, Due to all of this is why we have missed the mark. So it says the fourth characteristic of state is sovereignty. This is the supreme element of statehood. So we want sovereignty, we got to practice statehood. State is supreme. I'm only reading the underlying point. The state is supreme in both internal and external matters. The sovereignty is expressed through government. So what's the sovereign? Government. That's what you're part and parcel of.
My bad.
Remember, this
Repeat
is
that.
spirit.
Sovereignty expressed through what? Pardon the body.
Yeah. It says the state is supreme in both internal and external matters. The sovereignty is expressed through government. So we can change the spell up in our head. Okay, what's sovereign? The government. We ain't gotta get space cadet with the stuff. We ain't gotta mention the gods and the goddesses.
Now, what would be the What would be the definition of government?
This book it gives a general sense. Now, if you're looking for a specific answer, we can go straight to the treaty in international law itself.
Do they got do those treaties be having like definitions, or do they got a specific dictionary that they use to define them words they using in that treaty? Like, how is that worded? You know what I'm saying? Because they got it's like 8 different Black's Law dictionaries. It's like a million different dictionaries to choose from. So like, what dictionary because the law got to be definite, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
So like, what dictionaries are they operating off of, or what? You know what I'm saying? How are they defining these
Yeah.
words that they use?
And that's a good question, because that same mentality is up to us, just as it's been up to everybody else to further master and refine. Because basically, to answer that, what the treaties say, even though they might be worded weird sometimes in a certain treaty, or it might not be clear at all based on the mentality of today and the mentality of that time. XYZ, a lot of things, a lot of holes in the treaties, in which could cause misunderstanding. Basically, it's up to international law, the bodies of international law, who have been doing this throughout time, is to further refine and define certain certain words, just as you basically asked. So it's up to us to say what the meaning of this truth. Okay, I'll put it like this. We used to have a sultan until the sultan sold us out. A sultan sold us out. Several sultans, I should say. But Muhammad V, being the last sultan that sold us out, but I'm not saying everyone did, but there was, in the treaties, you'll see, just as you've seen in this picture here, it says His Majesty the Sultan. So if our treaties say sovereignty and independence is based on His Majesty the Sultan, then we don't have a sultan. And it's basically up to us to take this window that's leaving us with a big, wide open, what do we do now situation. International law has basically utilized a situation just like this is many others, and said, okay, since things have changed, all you need is a state government. So what's synonymous with this term sultan is the states now, because international law has made that equate with what a sultan is based on the history of it, our history. So every time we see the sultan, we talk about the states in international law, because we have no more sultan. There is no sultan for us. He's this king of the kingdom of Morocco, who is not governing this territory.
So would that make it like a case by case basis type thing now?
Which is a good question. Excellent question. Which is another issue, in which that we know that sometimes when we go to court, or sometimes in court cases, not when you go to court, but sometimes in court cases, period, if there is no law that basically encompasses what should be done specifically according to whatever that matter is, then it's up to that court case to say, okay, based on what this case says, this decision, that's what the law is. So the judge can make law based on its constant court decision, if there is no law to basically encompass for that matter.
I got you. That's
So
that's what a Supreme Court come in changing laws that Congress can put in place or making changes.
exactly, res judicata, all those are established laws in which the res judicata is pretty much, a situation that happened and another situation that happened, similar situations, and that basically due to this court case, these two situations, umpteen situations, they all have the same common denominator, and based on this, we have to make a law based on these similar findings. And so res judicata, whatever the decision is, according to that court, that's what the law is. And that's what uti possidetis, one of them being how to come out of a colonized territory into a state, a de jure state. Uti possidetis excuse me, is another maxim that is exercised. So it's res judicata. Uti possidetis juris is res judicata. It's been established as res judicata since the late 1700s as far as how to start the process of decolonization in so many ways. So it's many, and I want to speak on that as well, briefly. Maxims. Some people say, what are the 10 maxims of law that you got to do to do what you got to do? Tell me them right now, if you know what you do. Look, there's, for one, let's look up maxims. For one, there's well over 10 maxims. There's not a specific set that's more important than the other. Meaning of maxim. I should have just asked ChatGPT. Really. So maxim means a short, pithy statement expressing a general truth or rule of conduct. So maxims are general truths. They're general statements. General. They're not instructions. For instance, de jure, de facto. These are maxims. Ab initio, that's a maxim. It's describing something. It's a general statement. To say, what are the 10 maxims? Well, one maxim is a de jure. Does that prove anything? No. It's just saying something is de jure. De facto, what does that prove? Well, it proves something is in fact something. The United States is de facto. Okay, they're in fact the government. That's what de facto means. In fact. In fact is a maxim. De facto, that's a maxim. What are 10 maxims? De facto. Okay, your point. But that's not instruction. I'm not sure why more are stuck on maxims as if they're not just general statements. So it's kind of like saying
most of them don't ask questions like how we doing, how we questioning and answering. Most of them don't do that because the majority ain't read. The majority are all following processes. I don't care how high up they are. The majority are following processes and just listening to what somebody told them. They not sitting here how we just because we know each other, we still sitting here building and getting a clear understanding of what we were taught or what we were researched. A lot of them not trying to go into that.
mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's where it leave our people confused and they lost, and then they be scared to deal with our side because all they see is shit. That nigga got somebody locked up because he didn't really know what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly it. So on the screen, you
Well,
see,
that's why they stuck on the maxims. It's safe. It sounds safe, rather.
right, it sounds safe, right? It says, what are some famous maxims? Know thyself, nothing in excess, give a pledge, and trouble is at hand. What are 10 examples of maxims? Actions speak louder than words. The pen is mightier than a sword, right? De facto, de jure, ab initio, general state.
I actually got the 10 maxims right here on my phone. Now that I think about it, or the 1 to 10 that they mentioned.
Mm-hmm. Let me see. 100 maxims of law. It's a website that goes through a good number of these. Okay, here it is. Ab initio, actions legis or ens legis, ad hoc. All these are maxims for this purpose. So somebody say, you don't even know the maxims. What? International law treaties don't say you need a de jure. And that's it. That's what you need. You need a de jure or you need an ab initio. These are something describing they're a de jure state. That's what you need. Further continue the line, the sentence, right? Um, so let's put the maxims to rest. I just had to bring that while that was on my mind.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
So how would you do? Would you fund a de jure state? FUND. Would you fund a de jure state, or would you just have a de jure state sitting back to like govern the de facto state that you would fund?
um, I believe I caught on to that question clearly,
So like, how would you
but if
fund
you can,
how would you fund a de jure state? Or how would you put funds into it? Or would you
okay,
do would you put funds into it? You know what I'm saying? Instead, would you just put it and create a de facto state? Like how like you said, the Americans or the Americas the de jure and the United States the de facto or whatever.
yeah. Um, the the I'll give the holistic answer in a general sense. Um, as far as us starting off, right? We starting off as the jure more state. We would start off funding ourselves how we see fit until we take the United States of America to court, the ICJ, twice as we plan on taking. And that way, a certain reality is enforced for us to fund the state in a more de jure fashion. So that answer can vary depending on the time frame you're talking about as far as us exercising our integrity domain. But in its highest sense, in its holistic sense, for us to properly fund the state how we wish to would be through the state treasury, also taxes set up for everybody in our state, regardless of their status. They're if they're under our protection, they're going to be paying taxes. If they're a part of our state, they're paying taxes. Excuse me, I worded that totally different than the last few sentences. If they are a part of a more state, they are paying taxes to that state. There's no way that more is gonna come out of nowhere, expect us to handle things, take our time to do things, especially as a state that's not fully developed, and they have no obligations, not even to help us send out documents, um, knowing that this is coming from our pockets. So if you're not taking an oath of allegiance to the state and doing the bare minimum of that state, I wouldn't, this for the Moors who are not part of Moor state, I wouldn't expect anything from that state, because when we talk about expatriation and repatriation, there's a whole document explaining 500 plus pages, explaining what is that? The United States citizenship and expatriation protections and citizenships abroad, or something like that. It explains literally all of that: expatriation, repatriation, citizenship, protection, all of that. If you want protection, read that document, read international law, and see what comes bare minimum with protection.
What happens if I don't have if we don't have the funds to pay the taxes to transfer over, because we, like you said, and because of the timing issue as far as like where we at in our lives?
As far as that, and that's another good question. As far as the more states goes, the way we fund taxes is pretty much up to the people, to each state at that time, which is different for each and every one of us right now.
Okay, really.
So that may vary on what accounts may be accessible to those people at that moment. Regardless of being United, it may be cash, right? It may be Venmo, it might be a bank account. Whatever that state finds necessary to fund the state for that time, the people got to do what the people got to do, because we're under threat to worse and worse. That's the other reality to it, in which it's a perfect segue into what this video is further about. We can talk more about the commerce and stuff like that, economic liberty. But basically, we're under threat to worse and coercion, meaning that we have followed the instructions to become a Moor state, but the colonizers doing what colonizers do. So we don't expect them to let up, though there have been some instances in international law where the colonizers just get let up as soon as the people said, hey, get out. There have been some few instances of that. But for the most part, colonizers don't do that. So we're dealing with the reality of colonization, which is, yes, we can utilize more state documents, emanating documents, such as IDs and consular court, our laws, etc. All that we have. But the other reality is that when you're going to, let's just say, your job, remember, we don't want to cause confusion. How do you cause confusion? Well, things are not in a proper order when it comes to your nationality ID. And if you call it your nationality ID, which is not a state ID, more say, I got my nationality ID card. I keep seeing when you say nationality, like state ain't really what's protecting. State confers nationality. Nationality is a thing of the state. What is that? The state of mind. So I thought Allah gave you yes, it does, state of mind. You know who you are. You got to declare first. You got to know yourself first. And then you proclaim it, how you proclaim it properly through the state. So it's all one act. We just separated it really to make sense of it more. Some people separated it and got caught in it. Separation between the church and the state, the religious, the higher self, divine, and the lower self, the physical, the understanding, the reality. Some people already got spiritually separated between the church and the state, church and the state, excuse me. So going into the economic liberty without any inequality, and then more about what Noble Drively established. And matter of fact, let me talk more about funding the state right quick, so I can kind of fully furnish that answer. The Treasury basically is responsible for funding the state. Responsible for, let's just say, reparation. Oh, that's a good matter of fact. Yeah, I actually got a lot to talk about. But so the Treasury is responsible, and the Moors have to basically set up state law policies, uh, those types of things. Since there are no Moroccan laws in the United States, and no sense of going to United States saying, hey, this is how we do this, right? This is what your document says, United States title, whatever. Nah, skip those. If it say United States title, whatever. Nah, it should say Moroccan something 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 title, whatever, and then use, because without giving them the proper document, remember all this is energy. You're saying that you're depending on them still in some type of way. They know you don't know what you're doing. Somewhere down the line, it might make a lot of sense here, but this information come across the right person who know how to catch you, they will catch you. A lot of people don't know how to catch them. That's why it just happens. But these just people who just work 9 to 5, don't really care. Got a different job next week. And there's a lot of loopholes really dealing with the United States and how to do something, quote unquote. But really, there is no way. We always got to come from how the United Nations and the treaties say it's supposed to be done, and then use the United States as the secondary method, because they ain't even a de jure government, they're a corporation. So we can learn a lot from them, but we won't learn how to properly furnish functional government from people who purposely ain't trying to do that. Especially how to utilize economic liberty, without any inequality, because that's really all they got. They're not sovereign and independent like they claim, and integrity domains is not theirs. So it's a lot of loophole, like in a dictionary. Population, the word population is taken out in the Black's Law Dictionary for a reason. Human, I believe, is taken out of one or some of them. There's certain things that they purposely take out. So if you try to set something up, you won't get the whole picture depending on what you're trying to set up, because they just purposely take it out. So as far as let's just say if somebody wants to exercise how to get money or XYZ, the United States has a lot of ideas and good ways, but their ways and processes in totality are not the true ways and processes. The IRS, for example, they would forever have to create the IRS and then another subsiding entity after that's done and over with, just to keep the thing going. And based on what that says, now we know how to work with that. And so that would be, okay, now I know how to do this. Y'all, let me teach you, type of thing. So that's pretty much how it is, in which it does work in their system. But in international law, that's where we have to basically spiritually baptize ourselves in international law. So in regards to the triple principles, right, that stem from the preamble in the Act of Algeciras, is sovereignty and independence. State your independence, right? Then you got integrity of domain, which truthfully it blends with the third principle, which is economic liberty without any inequality, because integrity of domains is basically saying the integrity. What does integrity mean? Doing the right thing when nobody's looking. So they should be following the laws even when you're not looking. They should be following laws all day, every day. But that's not the case. So while we're exercising our integrity of domains, what are we doing? We're exercising our domain, everything in our domain, exercising everything that we're supposed to be able to exercise in our state, in our jurisdiction, in this country, in our government. So, which is a journey, because remember, we're dealing with colonized people who don't want to, who act like you're not there. At the same time, when they come across you, oh, now you're there. Now you're there. The more states get acknowledged as states. Now, whether we do things in the right order, that's up to us. The more states get acknowledged and recognized by states. But guess what? In order to get recognized by America, there has to be an American government. There is no American government. There's a United States government, corporation, I should say. We cannot get recognized by somebody who's not there to push the paper along. For two, well, I'll continue that topic a little bit later. But so integrity of domains is us exercising commerce in our domain. Now, dealing with colonizers, the United States specifically, we know that in totality, what they are the banks. Joe Biden is the face of the United States, acting as the United States of America. But Joe Biden is not running the show. The banks are. There is a certain order of the day to reign in. It's called statehood. This order has certain instructions that you can follow. What Noble Drali brought was a certain order for that time frame. But to continue understanding how to reign in the order, it's not as simple to understand if you don't know international law. And I'll say this I'll start by both explaining the triple principle and what Noble Drew Ali by saying this. What Noble Drew Ali brought was a religious organization incorporated in a de facto state or incorporated in the colonizer system. That is not where the end all be all is. On top of that, we know that there were instructions set up before Noble Drew Ali even came. Those instructions are in treaty. It says this is what the people need to do if they wish to do this for independence, et cetera, et cetera. What happened in following those? What Noble Drew Ali brought, again, was a religious organization, not a state government. Do they practice governmental function, governmental ways? Yes, in which I'll go through a picture further speaking on that. But it's a religious organization incorporated in a de facto state, the colonizer state at that. So again, we're not talking about sovereign and independent. We're talking about I brought you everything, yet the half has not been told. So meaning that if you were to some more quote unquote Moorish Americans say, you're not following the prophet's laws. Well, he has not told you half of it. So for you to say you're disobeying the prophet's law, well, he has not laid out half of it or told half of what needs to be told. So to disobey something that's not there is not allowed. For one. For two, I brought you everything. Okay, don't confuse everything as if you just depended on oral statements. He said, yet the half has not been told. What about that oral statement? So that means that following the prophet's laws, okay, what else has been done according to the treaties, the supreme law of the land? Because as sensitive as it may be for some Moorish Americans, Noble Drew Ali did not follow the instructions as far as utilizing a constitution. What is the Constitution? The divine and national constitution is for a religious organization. What do we need? A state constitution is for a state government. Those instructions were out in 1906. Noble Drew Ali came around in 1912, 13, right? Now, for whatever reason, I really don't care as to why it was set up that way, why it wasn't set up that way. I just know it wasn't set up as a state constitution. The more scientific America a state? No, it's not. It's not a country. It is not a state government. Sorry. The religious organization and organizations are called international organizations. They're not called states. Not called state government. Two totally different things. So what did Noble Drew Ali bring? Well, being that he took a religious organization, shrouded everything around religion. He used religion. In a divine and national movement. Was national sound like religion? No. Divine, that leans more towards religion or the spiritual side. So he brought something spiritual, right? He shrouded around something spiritual, something that's not as clearly easily seen from the black and white logic side. But what did he say? The third and fourth generation is going to understand. People around his time wasn't going to understand. Why? Because he established a religious organization. He said, the least you can do is pretend that your organization is a government. You know what? I'm gonna make this a theocratic government, and y'all gonna practice in this organization government to some degree. That's what y'all gonna do. It might not be the exact way, because people at that time starting an organization was, yeah, good luck, Chuck. People was broke, 25 cents to pay here. People still walking in dirt. 25 cents at that time was a lot. Not the same as today. You think 25 cents is just nothing. Nah. I know grandparents who were struggling. My grandparents were struggling at the time. I don't know what you're talking about. But so matter of fact, I think what 25 cents used to get you like, when my grandpa used to say like bread and bologna, like a whole loaf of bread, whole stick of bologna. I'm like, goodness.
My mama said a quarter. My mama said a quarter, you can get a juice, a pop, and a Twinkie or a cupcake back in the day. And she said penny candy, you got 3 pieces of candy for a penny, not just one.
Right.
That was crazy.
Inflation like a mug. They set that up on purpose. One candy per penny. They did that on purpose. They knew it was coming. But
I remember, hey, don't y'all remember when McDonald's burgers was 25-cent regular and 29-cent with cheese? They went for 20-something cent back in the day.
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That is crazy. So in regards to basically what Noble Drew Ali brought, he brought the religious aspect of things, an energy that a lot of people weren't prepared for at that time. Imagine trying to start a state government with people who barely had the confidence to start a business. Nowadays, just everybody's starting a business. Everybody got 6, 7 businesses. Nobody trying to start a state government though. So obviously we grew in some type of fashion. But now it's just time to basically utilize what we can in the old age, what some of us call the Piscean age, to bring in this Aquarian age. Basically, this old Moorish American paradigm thinking gotta go. And that's the that's the symbolic representation for something like Kali chopping the head off. That stuff gotta go. We just gotta go. How can it go? How can you transmute? There's a question. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about solutions, right? Well, let's bloom into talking about solutions. And I continue what Noble Charlie brought, which basically, again, a theocratic government. Now, what did Noble Charlie say? He said, learn government from the European. Okay, well, when we learn government from the European, we see that there's no Europeans that have a theocratic government. The only people that have a theocratic government are people from Yemen. Who was it? It's not the European. I put it like that. People that if you was to learn government from them, we would probably lose fast. Learn government from the European to establish a government, right? So, what kind of government? State government. That's what the Europeans have. They got states. So, this okay. And before I speak, okay, well, let's read this on the screen right quick, because we're gonna talk about currency, right, and more. But I'm gonna talk more about what this spiritual side right quick, or what Noble Drew brought. Is Moorish American nationality? No. Moorish American is not a recognized nationality in the traditional sense. The term Moorish American is often used to refer as a specific religious and cultural identity associated with the Moorish Science Temple of America, a religious organization founded in the early 20th century in the United States. Right? Remember, Moors born in America. Even if you want to say United States is different from United States of America, same side of the coin, same European, same colonizers. So it says Moorish American is not a recognized nationality, for one. Only states can recognize other states, for one. So can the United States recognize any Moorish state? Nope. Why? Because you're a corporation. Once you take them to court, we'll prove. It says members of the Moorish Science Temple of America identify themselves as Moorish American, emphasizing their African and Islamic heritage. However, their self-identification does not confer. However, their self-identification, how they identify as Moorish American, it does not confer any legal or recognized nationality status. Nationality is typically determined by citizenship. Okay, so more say just sanguineous. I have the right by blood. Well, you sanguineous, right to blood is all based on your citizenship. More specifically, the citizenship of your parents. Okay, what government are they citizens of? United States, right? They were born in America, right? Okay, that government, United States of America, right? Gotcha. They were in that church. Okay. A lot of more say, you sanguineous. I got the right by blood. They don't finish the sentence. Read the rest of the sentence on what you sanguineous is. It's citizenship. What government are you a citizen of? You got the right by blood, but why don't you finish reading the sentence? Spiritual paralysis. Cognitive dissonance. Only states can confer nationality. Only the state government can validate, confirm your nationality, can grant you nationality. Only the state government. It ain't just gonna be some random tribe talking about we got 6 people. Come believe what we say. No, state government that actually went through the instruction and who are now identified as state government. That's who. And don't require everybody in the world and the state to agree. It requires instructions being followed. It says nationality is typically, okay, well, it says it's important to note the concept of nationality can vary across different countries and legal systems. In the case of Moorish America, the self-identification as such is primarily a cultural and religious affiliation rather than a recognized, recognized nationality is what I believe we're gonna say. So Moorish American, just like the term Northwestern Mexican, its affiliations are only with the Moorish Temple of America, not in any treaty. You will not find Northwestern Mexican in any treaty. That's a privatized term. You will not find, turn him off. Oh, no. He would have a lot of good information. Sometimes, man, Rod Hayes be on there saying crazy stuff. I tell you, if you are coming into the movement and you coming into understanding according to what Rod Hayes, who he says what Moors are or got to do, oh my goodness, you about to be in spiritual paralysis when it comes to trying to understand international law, for real, for real. But and really, we gotta. This comes with a lot. Let me just say this right quick before I go to the next picture. This comes with a lot because all these ways that people trying to say that this is what we got to do, all these spiritual ways, you got to do these spiritual initiations, you got to do put this stuff on your altar, and you got to always, do this with the ancestors. You got to. That's our way. That's our way to liberation. That's our way, y'all. No, it ain't. That's a half truth. That's a personal revelation. That is not the way to uplift fallen humanity. It's not. Because guess what? The monks tried that. The Asians. They said, we can turn our bodies, our physical bodies, into light, called rainbow bodies. And all different types of methods and all these types of things in which they could turn their physical bodies into light. A hell of a thing. A hell of a science, ain't it? We can just all vibrate out this bug. Nah, I'm cool. Sounds nice. Don't sound realistic. You know why? Because even they got bombarded by next door neighbors. Say, that sounds nice. Now we got the rest of y'all for generation after generation after generation trying to be too spiritual and of no earthly good. Matter of fact, you're so spiritual that you ain't even trying to pertain to the earth. Barely. That's the only way you got your spiritual qualities, attributes, which is good. But it's all about balance. It's all about balance. This old way of doing things gotta go. Spiritual answers, when it just requires a logical, governmental, international answer, we gotta go. Yo, and I don't care how many altars you got. We've been waiting. Hurry up. But you need to put some more fire on your altar. It's not the way. That's for personal revelation. Personal. Private. Not public. For a reason. Public means to merge with the oneness of everybody. It's kind of like saying your soul. Your soul is internal and external. It's of the external world itself. The person is the sovereign, not you. We're talking about a whole nother octave. You got to get past yourself. It ain't about you no more. What happened when you have children that you got to govern? It ain't about you no more. What happened that when you got a state, people you got to govern? This is not about you no more. It is, but it ain't. You part and parcel. So the beef that you got with cuz next door, they want to slap you. Well, you the official. You gotta uplift his fallen humanity too, so he can exercise his human rights too. This ain't about you no more. This is a whole ego you gotta get past. This is national statehood is spiritual. It's making the heart pure. Is the Moorish Science Temple of America a sovereign entity, sovereign and independent entity? It says, and this is my last point in regards to the temple. It says, while the temple has its own internal governance structure, which is a theocratic government, and operates independently as a religious entity, it is not recognized as a sovereign or independent political entity. So the national, right, the divine and national movement, political, what governs nationals, the political side. What are you politically? You're not a Moorish American. You're not American. You're not an ancient American. You're not an American Indian. You're not an indigenous American. You're a Moroccan. If you are in a Moorish state. If not, then yeah, you're American. You're a United States citizen. You're black. You're an African American, et cetera, et cetera. And on the political side. The divine side, yeah, you might know who you are. You might got the blood that you claim. But did you do the paperwork right? Did you follow the treaty? It says sovereignty typically refers to the supreme authority and independence of a recognized state or government. So everybody say, I'm the sovereign, I'm the sovereign. No, you're not. You telling that, you talking like that amongst people, other governments at the table, saying I'm the sovereign, you sound like a monarch. That's not about to get recognized and nobody's about to mess with you. You sound like a crazy man. Talking about I'm the sultan. There's Moors who believe that the sultan of their organization is incorporated in the United States and they really call themselves the sultan. Like for real. And this is why they lock us up and say we're crazy. Because now you about to go out and acting like you're the sultan of this whole land man. You know how many lives that you about to put in danger? Sound real cultish. So it says the Moorish Scientific America does not possesses the attributes of a sovereign state, such as defined territory. So state is a defined territory, i.e. a country, a government. So state also means government, or the ability to engage in international relations. We can find that complete definition in the Montevideo Convention, Rights and Duties of a State, Article 1. That's 3 out of the 4 elements of what a state is. A defined territory or country, a government, and ability to engage with international relations. So just a second. Okay. I was trying to put my daughter down to sleep, but she's not going to sleep out. So the temple is not a state. But what did Noble Drew Ali bring? Again, he brought ways for us to exercise commerce. economic liberty without any inequality. And I'll finish off with this. Excuse me. And open the floor for any questions and answers, or comments, or whatever. But economic liberty without any inequality. How can we transition into the proper mindset? Oh, yeah, let me find this. Okay, this. Dang. Ah, well, I thought I had the picture, but I didn't. It was the. All right. Well, I'll put that in another video. But um, the picture I wanted to show was in relation to the steps that it takes to take another state to the ICJ. And in that picture that I wanted to show, there was a point number 7 spoke on basically how you can take someone to court and a decision can be made. You can even win the case. But if it basically is paraphrased that further diplomatic actions may be required in order to exercise this decision, basically. So we can go to court and say, yeah, we won, but further diplomatic action may be have to be established. What is it saying? It's a very vague statement, but it's saying that for one, if we don't have any laws to say, okay, now this water can fall through this avenue and it can give your state life like this. We don't have any laws, policies to say this is how we're supposed to get reparation, A to Z, all the way through, then we won't get that. It'll just be a body just inactive. This it's not moving. So winning is cool, but if it's kind of like death. Death is not the actual death, is what comes after it that you really got to watch for, that you really got to pay attention to, that you really got to measure out, that you really got to deal with. So as far as exercising economic liberty, this is the third principle in the Act of Algeciras, or the triple principles, for a reason. Because as colonizers, if they're the state banks, right, and that's their core to who they are, they're not about to come up off of that. We wouldn't expect them to. That's why we plan on taking the court twice, in which that there can be other degrees exercised for the time being. But as far as how to do something in and out all the way through, would first be to let's put it like this. First, depend on who you are and what your obligations are. So if you're not a part of a Moorish state, then obviously your obligations and probably day-to-day life is different than somebody who is not. When we talk about following the law, we talk about following an international law in its totality, right? In its totality. Because we taught everybody law for one. But if it means that we got to follow law in totality, then that means that we can't deal with one point of something unless you're at that point. If you're coming at If you're these decolonized people, if you're these colonized people saying, hey, I want to start a state government, well, you got to do step 1 first. You can't exercise what's on step 10. Step 1 is going to give you a certain level of acknowledgement, right? Actuality, reality, for you to exercise what you got to do, and you develop from there. Now, I say this because the third principle is economic liberty without any equality. That's our wealth, that's our money. That's the third principle. But it's the last principle because it's not likely that we're going to tap into the high frequency. I'm talking high frequency economic liberty. I'm trying to not pay a bill. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the state. All the gold in the state is now a part of the state. State pride. I'm talking about that type of result. Somebody was trying to say something. Okay. So in regards to, let's just say there's a United States code on how to, or a few United States codes, a few laws or whatever in the United States that says this is how you not pay a bill, right? In the United States system, they say this is how you do it. Remember, they're a corporation pretending to be a government. Keep that in mind. They say this is how you do something. Yeah, in their system. It's all up to that state, the de facto state, which may not be the de jure, but in fact, they are, there is no other state government saying nothing. So they're de facto state. And what says go. So that's in their system to say this is how you not pay something. But they're missing out. Remember, they take away words. They like to hide words. They like to hide concepts. You think the IRS is following international law? No. But it's answers for some of us to, not pay something and all this types of stuff, right? To get a certain type of relief. In which this is what Noble Jali basically pretty much established, is that Moors could have at least set themselves up in the United States system a certain way until the other half is told, other half has been told. What is the other half? International law. What do they say? You need a state government. So at least until we created a state government, that's the least that could have been done. Even though you're still colonized people in international law. Remember, in the United States, they say this is how you do something, this is how you do something, this is how you do something. They turn around in international law, say a completely different thing, blow your mind. So they got to make sure certain things don't cross-reference with international law. They'll take out the whole dictionary if they could. They don't care. As long as you don't decolonize and take the first steps to do that. And get them to walking back to Europe. That's the mature way of, quote unquote, walking back to Europe. Decolonize. But there ain't a lot of Moors maintaining that thing. Why? Because it requires a certain mentality just by saying, yeah, I just said the same thing you said. Just a mature way. So guess who don't want to look at the mature way? These same Moors that say Europeans gonna walk back to Europe, but don't want to talk about decolonization. Like it ain't the same thing. They don't want to get practical. They don't want to face reality. They don't want to do that. It's only selected few who can do that. You're part of the Moor state, you're part of the selected few. That's period. As far as what Noble Jali brought, again, he was called the Redeemer for a reason. But did he redeem a state? Did he bring a state? No, he did not. He said the third or fourth generation will get it for a reason, because there's something that time frame was missing. He knows that this is not America. You're Moroccan born in America. He know this ain't America, it's Morocco. The Sultan wouldn't be, I'm a Moorish American. Sultan wouldn't say that if we had a Sultan. He'd say, I'm Moroccan. Let's be real. The Sultan wouldn't need an American passport. So how are Moroccans saying they need an American passport? He's Moroccan like we are. So how we just all of a sudden changed up what we need? How? You're not following the prophet's laws. Okay, what did the treaty say before the prophet came? Nobody's answering that. Yeah, I followed the instructions. Okay, tell me something. According to the treaty. I heard more say, matter of fact, it was what do they call it? The blood right heirs. I heard more say, hey, we exercising the undrip and all this type of stuff. Treaty with piece of friendship. All you gotta do is prove that you're Moroccan by doing a DNA test. You're telling me that you say you read the instructions of the treaty, let's say do a DNA test from a colonizer system, that you can send the dog DNA and it'll come back saying it's Moroccan. There's people in these DNA systems admitting that they lie more than they tell the truth. And they work for the system, the DNA testing thing. But one, that ain't what the treaty say to do, to prove who you are. It's not. So Moore's got all these different processes, how you should do something. Well, I'll tell you what, only so many words are in the treaty and they come in a certain order. And if you can't make sense of those, then I see why you're doing what you're doing, because ain't no way you got DNA testing and DNA is nowhere in any of these treaties, the word DNA. How? Somebody playing crazy. So the reality is that the economic liberty won't come until we reach a certain level of advancement or development. Economic liberty they skip the first two steps. We got to establish the first two steps and then meet them where they at. Once we get the laws, the foundational, then we can, I ain't gonna say sit back, but then we can ease up a little. Because we already won. Only states can take somebody to court. What was that? That's that picture did say. Point number 2, the ICJ has, and the question is, what are the steps taking a state government to the ICJ? It says, determine ICJ jurisdiction. The ICJ has limited jurisdiction and can only hear cases involving disputes between states that have accepted its jurisdiction. Both the state bringing the case and the state being sued must have accepted the ICJ's jurisdiction, either through a specific treaty or by a declaration of acceptance of the ICJ's compulsory jurisdiction. Only states. The United States is not a state, so they lost right there. Boom. You lost. Boom. Oh, you got a whole 300-page document? We found out. We ain't about to look at none of it. Okay. You got to treat them just like I treat Moorish Americans. Put something on the record. Oh, okay, that's nice. You missed the mark. So it's like you never sent nothing in.
Point of interest.
Yeah.
So would it be safe to say like the ICJ would be like the tribunal or something like that?
Yeah, exactly. They're basically the referee that, even though statehood is the top cream of the crop, international law, which is several states coming together to form, I should say, the United Nations, it's 193 states coming together to form an organization. They make sure they put the energy into that to reassure that each and every individual state is doing what they're supposed to be doing. So yes, it's like a referee, basically, the ICJ. And one more thing, as far as the currency goes, and I think this will be my last point. As far as the currency goes, for years, everybody been saying that inflation, the dollar's gonna end, the dollar's gonna end, the dollar's gonna end. Since I was born, right? Now, I'm not saying I know the future. To the degree more and more states say they can say, truthfully, because if more don't know nobody, specifically more and more state don't know, then everybody knows in the world. Not say it like that, but yeah, you can wrap that up. It's the currency, regardless of what it is, the more states, our hands are going to be saying, come here and let's put you in order. I don't care if it's US dollar or not. But two, currency, it got to do with the third principle, in which that to change the currency first comes with more legislation. For one. So we got to decide as the United States of Morocco what we're going to be doing, what form of currency we're going to agree on, for what reason. Create laws on that, create policies for that. That's not an individual state thing. But as far as the currency goes, again, let's just say if we were to buy currency for whatever reason, silver, gold, platinum, whatever, there's many holes. Again, dealing with, it's kind of like that DNA testing. You could think that it'll give you some type of proof and remedy, in which it could, based on any things that you can remix. You can still utilize this resource for something and all this stuff. But it's going to come with the evened out other side to it, in which that if you want these resources, this gram of gold, you got to pay $80 continuously. A gram of gold is only going to get you so much. If you bet it, you might know some information that you can fight, so you ain't got to pay for the gold. Something might be, but guess what? The gold might be gold plated. And then so it's like, it's so many holes in which that them being a corporation, everything could sound good through and through. But they're still in the mentality of, we need to do what we got to do, regardless of where you at. We just hope, kind of like the DMX situation, his stuff was taken away.
Yeah.
He ain't had no trust set up. You said what now?
Point of interest.
Oh yeah.
You can create a resource or an asset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And you could
You don't
definitely
necessarily have to buy it.
And that'll be, I would say, something that the more states could do way down the line. There's pretty much no need to reinvent no wheels right now. So once we get everything.
I was just talking about art.
Oh, right. Yeah, I mean, it could go back to the like ancient times. You know,
Yeah, that's what that's what we started with. Trading art. That's why all these paintings is probably the most expensive resources known to man for real, for real. The
and
memorabilia
honestly,
and the artifacts. Those are the most expensive and the most valuable artifacts that we have on this planet is art or artifacts.
that idea, just to talk about that right quick. Let's just think about that.
Hey, the root word of artifacts is art.
Most definitely.
Exactly. And you know that this can be mental uh, a mental thing going on basically, because if currency deals with the current, right? The currency, you got to pay attention to the currency and all this type of stuff. Basically, what we're saying here, these different forms of currency or these different forms of gaining people's attention to still get at the other side of currency, right? This can be utilized, and this is just my opinion. It's basically a method for the state government to attract a reality until we get to this form of currency, and then this form of currency, and then the currency that we were all trying to get to. Because even though art is a form of currency, well, let's look at why this is. Why does it even have to do with currency in the first place, and how can states capitalize on executing this understanding? It's very subtle. In which, just like Noble Drew Ali did, how can I get these people? What do he say? I got to put my thumb around the elbow or whatever. He had to do the most just to exercise a subtle understanding that he knew wasn't, or whether he knew or not, what he had to know based off of these some of these oral statements. So, uh, uh, you got to stretch it out basically. And this stretch out might take a week, it might take decades, it might take a century, it might take however long you take, however long the more states say it's gonna take, however long the law says it's gonna take. But because this stuff is gonna go like kindergarten to 12th grade. It ain't about to be the third or fourth generation. We gotta wait. Nah. So as far as focusing on currency, as far as what form we'll use specifically, that isn't something for us to change in reality right now, besides creating Moore's law for it. But until we take them to the ICJ and enforce this reality and keep doing that at least twice, then or the 2 times that we plan on doing it, then it's pretty much just wishing on a star. So pretty much the first thing we had to do is all the more states come together, discuss what currency we'll use and why, which I'm sure would be a nice lengthy topic. But yeah, really, we really just gotta pretty much work to establish heaven right now, instead of expecting everything at once. Really, even though it will come fast, but it's definitely gonna take more hands, more heads, more American. What they say, some of the best Moors are in the church or sleep, basically, who are subject matter experts, professionals in what they do in their field, further us in a speedily time frame. That's what we're looking for. So to conclude this topic, in regards to the last triple principle, economic liberty without any inequality, I would just like to say that the solution to this is, again, learning government, to establish government. How do we do this? We learn government from the United Nations. They tell us how to establish a government. That's the Europeans. What are the Europeans? The United States in so many ways. They don't tell us how to establish a government. We can't learn too much government from them. But how to function something in so many ways, yeah, obviously. So we would take everything. There's Moorish Americans who have several different processes. You know, I've heard many different processes. And some of them work, some of them do. But the Moorish Americans who, you know, sell their products or sell their processes and say this is what we need to do in the United States system, we need to use the US code, we need to set up a trust, we need to do this stuff. To come out of that thinking and say this is what, you know, we got to do in their system according to what they say, basically all this type of stuff. Your process that you have A to Z, test it out, weigh it out. And this is, I'm speaking to the Moorish American. A to Z, your process, whether it's DNA testing, whether it's whatever it is, to say this is what you got to do to claim nationality. Or this is what you got to do to beat this case. This is what you got to do to not pay rent or a bill. Weigh out your instructions, A to Z, and compare them to a treaty, any treaty that has instructions. There are several treaties with instructions. Every treaty has instructions. So, I think I hear my son coming up the steps. But, so, just keep in mind, or let me finish this thought. The solution would be, okay, if the third or fourth generation don't get it, and we know that settling in the colonizer system is not it, I mean, the first step is likely not it. Whatever first step you were suggesting is likely not it. We have to remember, it's a reason we pushing old heads to the back. Because old heads are gonna be the ones that, oh, it's been this way, it's this way. You can't tell me nothing. Weigh out these instructions from A to Z that you have for your process according to the treaty, according to the international convention. If they are not that, discard it. Because from A to Z, first step to the next step, to the next step, to the next step is not going to align based off of what international law says. So there are some things that we can bring into this understanding that we had as a Moorish American. Some, not a lot. Because again, from A to Z, how something should be done might not be the same way in international law, where there's a strict set of instructions. So the United States has a lot of ideas, wills, trusts, different types of trust. But national trusts are come from states, and that's what governs any other trust. And in order for your trust to be connected to a national trust or a state, your individual trust has to be connected to that state. So we're talking about part and parcel, to where if we utilize it in the United States, you know, you might get an EIN number, incorporated, unincorporated, what have you. It's not the IRS or any of the systems in the United States that could attach you in any type of way, even regardless of what you say, to a foreign state. it's just always pretty much, it's kind of like on a game, on a game, Xbox or something. So where you might be playing a game and you realize you can't go in a certain area. It's like a red zone. So your body keep bouncing back. But you can see way down the line. It's kind of like that way down the line. It'll forever keep going. And you'll never know where it ends. Messing with the United States. And they'll always put that stop on you. But it'll never connect you to the other side of things. Because it's always that finish the statement type of effect where only states can validate, confirm what you're trying to do. So what the United States can do is make it seem as though, because they ain't even a state themselves, they're a corporation. So once they try to do something, boom, they stop in their track. They don't want to cross international law or make it seem like it, right? That's why most Americans still don't have human rights. They might have done that one act right, but for the simple fact that human rights are not for the simple fact that human rights are not I gotta let them in. Human rights are expressed and protected by states that, excuse me, that's the other side. So remember, Noble Dry Lee brought 50-50. About half of it, right? We here to establish the other side of things, the national side. So it's definitely some victory that you can get on a personal level in the United States. On a personal level. And those ways might not be in alignment with treaties, of course. But the treaties say start a state, and all states need constitutions, etc. So you as an individual can't start a whole state government and be several different elected officials, etc. But that's what you as an individual are part and parcel to the state. So I'll open up the floor for any questions or comments before we conclude this meeting. I believe I talked about everything that I wanted to talk about right now, but I'll open the floor for any questions or comments.
This line today was more of a receiving more information for me today. So I received a lot of information. More so than questions I need to ask. Today was an information day for me.
Dig it. It's on. It's on. So I'm glad that I actually probably make some more videos like this, kind of just based off of the general sense of things, just to kind of get the understanding up us from out of the previous mindset that I myself was in for the longest. So I'll probably do another video on the first two principles more so. Outside of the commerce, et cetera, because some of these are a little far off as far as us exercising some of these things, not everything, but some of these things. So with that said, I'll conclude this video here. And I'll talk to you all in the near future. Islam.